let's first start off with France. And I want to ask you to just unpack a little bit what is going on between France and Algeria. What is the current ongoing issue about?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it seems like a local or let's say a national issue became a sort of an international one, and it's a very interesting one. And the winner is a very surprising country out of all this. I think that nobody, well, I mean, anybody familiar with the region might see coming. But Emmanuel Macron made a speech recently, and in that he criticized Algerian school books for the way they portray, for example, French colonial rule, apparently. And then this, I mean, to be look, he made with his exact comments were apparently that before the French there was colonial rule in Algeria, referring to the obviously Ottoman Empire. I mean, I kind of like that because a lot of people do seem to think like empires started with the European colonial empires, but no, Ottomans were empire, Romans, many others. Anyway, so but
But
he
is
said that, but obviously he was pandering to the right though because of the upcoming well, that's what most people know.
but wait, now that you've said that though, is there some kind of are there distinctions that do have to be made though with how like different kind of empires impacted Algeria and
Sure, of course,
colonialism? But yeah,
historically, yes, of course. But yeah, and which one right now has had a more significant?
yeah.
But yeah, but colonialism did not start with the Europeans, or with the French, or. So, and you know, again, anyway, all right, that's a
No, but
whole different
explain. I
debate.
understood what you were
But
saying, but you can, yeah. I mean, you can
yeah,
just
no, I'm
elaborate so
just
there's no confusion.
No, I'm just yeah. I wanted to make a point that he wasn't making a wrong historical point, but the way he was making it,
Yeah.
we all knew what he was trying to say. He was basically trying to say, and France. He put that in the context that France and Turkey are increasingly becoming
Very true.
antagonistic.
Yeah. It's a good thing to
Yeah,
point out.
and yeah, and we'll get to why I pointed out. So what, and as a result of that, what you had, sorry, as a result of his uh, comments, Algerian officials recalled their ambassadors very angry, and the tension escalated. Algeria closed its airspace, barring French aircraft from entering the country, and this was, this was a huge escalation of the conflict. Also, there was a report, I couldn't find it, that Algerians apparently asking for the removal of certain French troops to be replaced with Turkish troops for some security of some facilities
Mm.
and such. But I couldn't find the exact article, and I don't know. Whenever I googled it again, I couldn't find it. So maybe, yeah, I don't know. I can't. Don't quote me on that. That is so. Following this, the Macron, as usual,
Mhm.
as his usual technique, the same technique he used with Erdogan, he now backed down a bit, and he said he called for calm in relations. He hasn't apologized or anything as of yet, uh, but I will see. So he's called for calm. So the relations have, now we are sort of, the ball is on the Algerian side to let's see what
Mhm.
they do. But that was very interesting. Like it's fascinating. France 24, besides 20, besides 24/7 focusing on Russia, another country they're obsessed with is Turkey. And they, for example, recently there was a lot of reports that Maghreb, which is West Africa, basically,
No,
and specifically Morocco. Sorry,
yeah.
Maghreb. I think Maghreb is the general term for West Africa.
No, I think it refers
In
to it refers more to North Africa, especially like the French speaking part of North Africa. I thought like
northwest. No,
Northwest.
northwest.
So like France and
Maghreb.
Algeria and
Yeah,
Morocco, I believe.
Libya,
Does Libya
Algeria,
count?
Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah, Libya. Maghreb is basically Arabic for Gharb,
Yeah.
for West. So I went full Persian. Yeah, yeah. Maghreb is, I suppose,
Yeah, I'm just
is
checking
when
specifically region in Africa, which countries fall under.
I doubt that it's like Middle East. I think it's a political like it's not it's like some countries probably sometimes are in it, sometimes, but it's Northwest Africa.
No,
Anyway,
apparently like
in that
Maghreb
region,
countries. Yeah. Anyway,
uh,
sorry. Algeria, Libya.
Maghreb is a country
No, it's like an official kind of region. In some ways, it's considered as official.
like
So it
Middle East,
says,
I would imagine.
yeah, so Maghreb countries, according to this Europa website document, it's Algeria, Libya, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia. So yeah, northwestern
Or,
um, Africa.
well,
Sorry about
well,
that.
no, but sorry about the tangent. Morocco, Marrakesh, which has a long-standing rivalry with Algeria. Some describe as the most uh, sort of useless rivalry that has been going on in Africa for many years. Because they keep like both sides just loose. It's kind of like Iran and Israel fight. It's just waste of energy and time. But interestingly, Turkey had been selling quite a lot of drones to them, which they sort of it's not clear that they're going to use them, but they sort of it's well, like Algeria was very worried about that. So it's quite interesting that Turkey is winning all over North Africa, Northwest Africa, or Maghreb region. I mean, they're heavily in Libya, they're heavily investing in Algeria and Morocco. They're heavily investing, and it seems security-wise, they are even increasing their influence into sort of somewhat antagonistic countries. And France is increasingly losing its prestige over them immigration issues, over trying to pander to local electorate. And nowadays, people all around the world quickly hear your voice and all that. So that was a very fascinating development. And I think the most major development in Europe that we could discuss today, to be honest. I don't know if you have any questions or.
No. That was great. I was also just curious about the whole Algeria and France thing. So I was kind of listening to like any of our viewers who might not be too familiar with this subject. So yeah, no questions. Please continue.
No, sure. Oh, but yeah, and that's why, by the way, in the beginning, I mentioned that Macron was referring to the colonial past of Algeria and Morocco before French colonial rule. It was the Turks. So it was quite a jab at the,
Yeah.
could be described as quite a jab. But let's moving on to another, perhaps the most important country in European Union in terms of at least political and economic power. In Germany, 10 days after Germany center left Social Democrats won parliamentary elections, the Greens and pro-business liberals have agreed to start exploratory coalition talks with SPD. So that's seen as the first move towards the coalition government that was described, I believe, as the traffic light coalition with the SPD, red on top, and then sort of Greens, and then yellow being FDP.
So
I don't know. I don't know.
leftist,
I can't drive.
so centrist, socialist, kind of leftist Greens, and then like right wingers.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Yes.
form the
Yes.
main part of the coalition. They were some of the biggest winners of the German elections. But of course, there's also Merkel's Angela
Armin
Merkel's
Laschet.
old party, which still won quite
SD.
a lot of seats, but won't be able to form the coalition, it seems.
No, and Armin Laschet, as a politician, is pretty much they described he would be lucky now to keep his state
I see.
premiership
Okay.
nowadays, and I think this is pretty much the end of him now, and pretty much it's there any hope of they used all these different color coding things to describe coalitions, but there was rainbow another coalition talk that was you would have CDU, because CDU would be able to would offer a lot more to these two minor parties, but that seems unlikely. And I think Armin Laschet as a party leader is also going to be gone
Yeah.
within the next 6 months. So
I see.
It seems quite important. But the most interesting thing is that FTB and the Greens came together, and everybody. I mean, I know a lot of people think. I just don't think the Greens, especially with the current leadership in Germany, are that leftist. And in many ways, I don't see their uh, their coalition, their alignment with FDB that's surprising, because the
Hmm.
Greens are actually right now in the, they're supported by green business. And green business, whatever you want to say about it, good, bad, it's future, it's not, whatever, I don't care. It does, like, they would, of course they would rather have less regulations and more government support, so being in government and also having less regulation. So it's not like their agenda is fully,
Mm.
antagonistic, as some I think have suggested online. But maybe in German newspaper they're more balanced. I've only been reading, obviously, more uh, English speaking, English written words. So yeah, so I thought that was quite important. But yeah, now we can move on to other countries if you like.
Yeah, yeah, please do.
Yeah, sure. So in Poland, there was quite another important and huge country in Europe. There was quite a important development. Poland defies EU as court backs government in rule of law battle. So Poland has a political system that is somewhat similar to the US. Actually, they have a Supreme Court. Which is above the legislature and above the government. And there was this fight between the EU and the government, which went to that Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court of Poland agreed with the government, and I think it was an overwhelming, I think 12 to like 15 or something. I don't quote me on that. And a lot of people are saying that this may be one of the first steps of whole exit. And this is a continuation of the topic we talked about before, a continued fracture that we're seeing in Europe. I mean, we talked about France, for example, earlier on in our, I don't know if you, maybe a different video, but same video. Uh, uh, France is pretty much pursuing its own foreign policy, uh, being abandoned by the rest. German politics fractured, Dutch politics completely fractured, and this decision by the Supreme Court of Poland is a further indication of fractured politics in Europe, this time between Warsaw and Brussels. Uh, so let me give you just a bit of details. The ruling in response to a case brought by Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki caps a 5-year legal feud between Poland and the EU, during which the country's conservative nationalistic government has given politicians sweeping powers over the country's judiciary. That is referring to the fact that the politicians, like the prime minister and all that, they could sort of appoint supreme leader courts, and they basically started expanding the Supreme Court. That was a case, I don't know if you recall, that's a case that Democrats use a lot for, oh, we don't want to expand the Supreme
Hmm.
Court because then it becomes a whole, then Republic, then it becomes like 100-member Supreme Court.
Yeah.
So, so the result was the Polish Constitutional Tribunal agreed completely with what the Prime Minister wanted, said Marcin Matzak, a law professor at Warsaw University. All the questions were answered. Yes, Prime Minister, which is, I think he's referring to the TV show I referred to once. So, but this could lead to a withhold of $36 billion of COVID recovery funds from Brussels to Poland. So these things, we'll see how the situation will evolve. I doubt we'll see. I doubt this is even maybe this is some sort of an overture towards poll exit, but I doubt it's a first step or anything like that. But it's an important development.
Yeah, no, no, I mean for sure. I mean a lot of members of the EU are clearly not happy with the EU, but yeah, I don't think anything like Brexit is going to happen anywhere.
Uh, no, yeah, and the fact that financially they're all tied to euro makes
Yeah,
it far more difficult for them than the British to do
100%.
so. So, all right, shall moving on to the next government in trouble, shall we say? The
Yeah.
Austrian government is in trouble, specifically Mr. Kurz. I believe Sebastian Kurz, the youngest prime minister uh, Austria ever had, a right wing. I would. I would say further than center right wing, but a coalition
Yeah.
prime minister, obviously. So obviously he can't put on his full agenda.
Mhm.
But again, let me read exactly so I don't make a mistake. Austrian government is under threat after the Green Party signaled it was prepared to walk out of Chancellor Sebastian Kurz coalition amid a corruption probe by a state prosecutor that has named him as a suspect. So the prime minister himself has been
Mhm.
named as a suspect in this probe, and the Greens are threatening to walk out of the coalition, which would trigger the collapse of the government and potentially an election in Austria. He's been surprising because in the beginning there was quite a lot of fear of him being quite right wing. He seemed to be quite effective manager of Austrian uh, politics. Although I don't follow Austrian politics enough to know, I'm sure he probably pursued a privatization and anti-immigrant agenda,
Oh, for
has
sure.
done it, has done it in a much more savvy way than Viktor Orban or the politicians in Poland, for example, have
Victor
done.
Urban is Hungary, right?
Yes,
But yeah.
the fame they say the
Yeah,
best
I know, I
friend of
remember exactly.
Trump.
But even the Austrian prime minister, if I recall correctly, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when the topic of immigration was really hot in EU, he didn't also hold back, and he was quite outspoken with his anti-immigrant views and positions.
You're talking about Sebastian Kurz?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fascinating. Also, let me add though, uh, sorry, where was it? Oh, yeah. Shortly afterwards, minister from his mainstream Conservative People's Party issued a joint statement declaring that the party, Austria's largest, stood fully behind Kurz and would only participate in a government led by him, which is quite a strong show of support from your own party and shows that has the full support of the country. Uh, Obviously, the country's left and liberal parties who are in opposition are up in arms, but to be fair to him, he's just a suspect. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would be interested in knowing more, but
And yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I hadn't prepared for this in advance. I was
but
just go ahead.
oh, just to add, the charges are bribery and perjury.
Hmm. Okay.
Sorry.
It's interesting. No, perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But yeah, I was just double checking something, and I didn't know that he was in office from 2017 to 19, and then he wasn't for 1 year. And then now again, he's the chancellor, and I don't know what the reason that is.
Wow. Maybe that was one of
So
those
he,
years that like you have in Belgium and Netherlands where they're negotiating.
I don't, yeah, but pretty much, look, he was chancellor from December
But
2017 to May 2019. And then from May 2019, I don't know what he did until January 2020
no,
when he
no,
became,
but go. But if you Wikipedia is good for this because then like you can see his predecessor or his successor. If he
yeah.
didn't have a successor or predecessor for his current position, that means they were probably doing coalition talks.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, well,
If I don't know.
yeah, I know exactly what you mean on, but for some reason I'm not seeing that. But
I
yeah,
recall
I'm not.
Belgium didn't have a government for 2 years, like no prime minister per se, caretaker or something.
But yeah, anyway, you can move on. I know exactly how you're talking about on Wikipedia, but I can't find that right now. So, um, continue. But yeah, and he's a very young guy too, 86.
Yeah, he's this
So
I mean, sorry, I'm go on a tangent, but
yeah.
this a lot of people are saying the young are winning and the young are the left and the young are green and
Yeah.
all that. I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of young that are like him and are sort of this. It's he seems like he's like Austrian and that sort of Germanic vibe. So he seems this PMC as in professional managerial
Mhm.
class, but sort of on a steroids and sort of this global elites, young and very. It's just he's the
Yeah,
perfect face for
but
the.
I recall in 2017 and stuff when he was becoming prime minister, he was outspoken with his anti-immigrant rhetoric and all that. So I mean, he was still casted as part of a little bit of the anti-immigrant populist kind of wave. I remember back then, but
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And he must have been so he was so young back then. He was, I guess he was 30 when he initially became prime minister.
Oh, and I just found out, by the way, from June 2019 to January 2020, Bridget Bierlein, uh, Austrian former jurist, served as Chancellor of Austria, and she was serving as an independent, and she was the female Chancellor of Austria. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
so but yeah, I
I don't
have
know
to
what
look into
happened.
how he lost it and regained it.
Oh,
But
she Yeah, because interesting. He lost the Sebastian Kurz. I guess the coalition fell apart, and he lost the vote of confidence,
oh, okay.
and
And then
then
I guess
probably, and he won the election again, and then they had to shit. All right,
okay,
all right.
well,
So
yeah, if
let's
somebody
next.
wants to correct us or add to that, please in the comment section, please do so. But yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to. I'm trying with this Google Translate to read more Austrian and German newspapers, but it's genuinely difficult. I should learn the goddamn language, but that's too difficult. Anyway, so yeah, on a more uh, sort of, let's talk about something that is a bit more tiny, but maybe a bit more fun. But Viktor Orban, who we mentioned earlier, Hungary's prime minister, he blamed the EU's climate change action for energy price surge, which EU denied. EU said at the most, EU officials said at the most it could count for 1/5 of the price surge. And I think they're being, to be honest, very kind to him because I
Sounds like
think
it.
the large, yeah, because this is a complete supply crisis, a
Yeah.
crisis of lack of planning, uh, due to
100%.
everybody knew after COVID there is going to be a huge surge,
Yeah.
and everybody, including every fucking scientist, has been mentioning for the last 30 years that winters are becoming colder, summers becoming warmer, and as a result, energies are being used far more and increased human population, increased human consumption. There was this great report, for example, on energy crisis in India, which India uses a lot of coal power plants, which are very bad for environment. And like, but there has been a huge jump in number of people who've bought fridges, who've bought fans, and so this could all have been planned for.
100%.
And so, but Viktor Orban, just like many other nationalist populists, I know Thomas Frank will be very upset that I use this term, but yeah, unlike many of them, sort of seize the moment to, yeah, shit on climate change and
Yeah.
the European Union's fight against climate change. And this, yeah, this was
European Union's fight
disappointing, but
against climate change
expected
too.
from an idiot like it.
I said
Oh yeah,
EU's
yeah.
fight
I'm
against
again, yeah.
yeah.
Let's not
But that happens
exaggerate.
when
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
someone talks so
Sorry
much
if I
shit, you can't you like inadvertently like defend the other side's
inadvertent. Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah. I'm defending the side that is arguing that maybe in 60 to 70 years, maybe we can use, when we are all of us are dead and you guys are left, then maybe we can less,
Yeah.
use less fossil fuel. So yeah, exactly. I'm not. Yeah, sorry. I may have presented EU as this sort of a force against climate change, but no.
But listen, that's
And
what happens anytime you counter like absolute nonsense. I find this happens in every argument. But yeah, continue.
No, I agree. But just to, I wanted to give a bit more detail. I like to delve into these countries and all that, into things that I never hear about.
Mhm.
So, interestingly, he's also trying to sort of consolidate when you do the power, when you
Oh,
grab the
yes.
power grab.
Yeah, consult
Uh,
con
cons-
oh
that's
my
a hard
God.
word. Wow. Yeah, anyways, he's trying to do a power grab in within its own country in some ways as well. He has wrestled control of Budapest airport from its international investor owners. So he's sort of national. I don't know
Wow.
if it's nationalized or sort of state-owned companies have taken over. The government has submitted a second offer to buy the airport after the first was rejected as too low this summer, according to people familiar with the matter. And uh, the the airport was only privatized in 2001, 2011, is majority owned by Canada's public sector's pension investment board, which is fascinating. I just love the fact that poor pensioners in Canada are like, where is my money? Like, oh, it's been invested in an airport in Budapest. But yeah,
But hold on a
just to be
second.
clear.
At
Oh,
first, when you
also
said,
the
at first, when you said
Singaporean,
the,
Singaporean. Yeah,
so,
go ahead,
so
go ahead.
at first
No,
though,
no,
when
it's
you
it's
said,
just such a weird financial mix.
I know, and at first when he said he's trying to grab the airport from thing, and it sounded like crazy. But then I was thinking about it. Why was this airport ever privatized? I mean, I think that's the main issue and question. But yeah,
I mean, again, not in any way to endorse any nationalistic tendencies or any of these guys' policies, but sadly, years of neoliberal policy, especially when EU was expanding and
yeah,
sort of ordering countries to privatize in a specific way, that, I mean, even privatization can be done
in different ways.
like
Yeah.
better than this. Yeah, but anyway, so I think that sort of laid the groundwork for the rise of this kind of populist who, I'm sure his version of sort of state ownership will be marred by corruption and all
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
But that's what people support him, because they have been sort of hurt by the other side, so they're trying something new, and then in 10 years they try the other side again. So
Yeah. Again, try a shitty version of the other side, and then again try a shitty
yeah.
version of this side. Yeah.
Yeah, Gore Vidal wrote United States of Amnesia. It should be called
Mhm.
Global States of Amnesia,
Yeah.
I think. But